Welcome to Naked Spirituality, a video blog series of sacred attention therapy and the Center for Human Awakening. My name is Rob Meager. For more information about sacred attention therapy, the Center for Human Awakening, and our video blog series, please visit our website at www.centerforhumanawakening.com, and center is spelled C-E-N-T-E-R. These video blogs support one of the Center's core activities, which is collaboration and partnership with individuals, communities, and healing centers practicing personal growth and spiritual development. And our guest today is Jonathan Banks, and we'll be talking with Jonathan about his therapeutic work through Your Brain training. And I'd now like to invite Jonathan to come on the screen. Hello, Jonathan.
How you going?
Hello. Nice to be with you.
Nice to be with you too.
I understand I'm reaching you on the east coast of Australia, due south of Sydney.
Yes, just 75 k's in the beautiful Wollongong.
I've visited your beautiful country in 2001. I was on a business trip, and it was beautiful. I spent about 10 days there in a beautiful, beautiful part of the world.
Yeah. Yes, I like it.
One of the wonderful things I enjoy about this video blog series is being able to reach out to people around the world, and this is perhaps one of the more extreme examples of around the world. I'm calling you from Ottawa, Canada, so it's nice to connect.
It is.
I want to talk to you about Your Brain training, and could you share with us, for those watching and listening, overall, what is Your Brain training, and what are some of the products and the services that you offer through that therapeutic service?
Okay. Your Brain training, it was set up as a site to look at all sorts of technologies to help the brain. And the reason that I sort of got into that is that about 30 years ago, I started to realize and started to think that modern science is taking us to a point where, even though the worldview of science, of course, is materialistic and they're missing some major aspects of metaphysics, the truth will be found, because science is actually pretty good at marching its way towards that, so that there's going to be a convergence. But what I saw was that I believe that neurotechnology, neuroscience would look to develop neurotechnology that would help the brain, healing the brain and uplifting the brain. And the reason that I was interested in that is that I thought, well, at the end of the day, the key to human evolution, human spiritual evolution, and the key to the reduction of evil was the brain. And that until we have a really powerful objective understanding of brain function, and then some really fabulous tools to seriously heal brains and uplift brains, then as a race of sentient beings, we are not going to get to the next step, because that's the physical basis of the computational mind, and it's the antenna of consciousness. It mediates consciousness. So that's the key. And I think any other sentient beings anywhere else in the universe that have evolved out of animals the way we have, they're going to have a crocodile and a wolf built into their brains with a lovely higher sentient frontal lobe on there, the prefrontal lobe. And, I have this neuroevolutionary model of evil that says that, well, when you've got sentient beings and that you've got that architecture in there, and you've got these subcortical structures that can temporarily or over long periods of time hijack that prefrontal lobe, then you get common human evil. And that's plagued humanity since the dawn of time. And we've experimented with every way of desperately trying to manage that, and we haven't done a good job of it. And now we've painted ourselves into a corner with our own intelligence so that now technology is so powerful that it's magnifying the good and the evil of humanity. And so you could say that our technology just doesn't tolerate our evil anymore. So I think we've come to a point where we absolutely have to understand enlightenment and evil as just completely evolutionary thing. You don't even have to get sort of spiritual about it, that it is the next natural step of sentience when they have the sort of power that we have. So that's why I'm interested in neurotechnology, because I believe the brain is the key to our evolution as a species, and that I believe that then neurotechnologies that heal brains, uplift brains, tune brains to peak performance and open them up to spirituality, that get out to the masses is an absolute necessity. So your brain training was a step to sort of start to set those things up.
You have quite a background in psychology. If one pokes around your website, it talks about that background a little bit. I was intrigued by your background in transpersonal psychologies. And how has that blended or fed into your work through your brain training?
Well, that's a great question. And what it has done, Robert, is that from the very beginning, since a 10-year-old kid, I used to read National Geographic magazines. I love science. To me, it's this incredible adventure, you know, and I love adventuring in the outer world too. We've got beautiful nature here, and I love going in it, and I love exploring. I go off the tracks and find my own way, and we find power places and do all sorts of wonderful things. So that transpersonal side and that spiritual side, coming through the ranks of yoga and meditation, all the traditional things, and studying all of that, has grounded me in these fundamental basic ideas, so that I look at the scientific side, I look at technology, and I'm not dazzled by the bells and whistles of it. And I just see it as a tool. And if the yogis would have had similar tools, well, they would have used them. It's human nature. We always try and do more with less. We're always trying to refine things. So it's given me it's grounded me in not getting too carried away. You know what I mean? With the idea of technology will save us. No, I just see it as a tool, and I'm highly interested in tools that can really help, really uplift. Because the one thing, of course, like many others, that I am worried about is this, you know, balance. Do we have time? You know, the good is getting better and the bad's getting worse. And it's sort of a race against time in a sense. And so that's how it's helped with me. And with my work with people, of course, it helps in the sense that I get a lot of people coming to me that have things going on, psychic things or spiritual things, and they're trying to sort of make sense of that and work with that. And so I can help them with practical things and understand and give them some broad advice on what's going on there. Or you get people that are opening up and don't know what's going on, and I can understand that and help them with that too.
You've talked about using technology as a tool, and your website emphasizes that. It shares the quote, neurofeedback is a powerful brain training tool, end quote, for a variety of applications. You know, some of them are peak performance, some of them are oriented towards athletes, perhaps professional athletes, but there are a couple in particular I'd like to focus on and ask you about. One of them is the application under the umbrella of neurofeedback therapy. Can you tell us about this therapy work?
Okay. All right. Let me explain neurofeedback. Neurofeedback is the flagship technology.
Okay.
When I discovered this 24 years ago, I just instantly thought, oh my God, here it is, here we go. Because before that, I had definitely believed that, look, yes, everything we know now, all the wisdom from the past, all the techniques were subjective, and they hit a type of a glass ceiling. And the information had to be protected because it was subjective, and so that's why it was protected. It was secretive and protected, because that was the only way to maintain the integrity of it. So we've got to. It's all changed now. It's all out in the open, and that's fabulous, because it's raised awareness. It's taught people a lot of techniques that people are using, and it's helping them. Some have gone a long way with it. Some have got some stress management out of it. Others have very little out of it. But in that process too, a lot of it's been mangled and distorted. So the idea of having technology, and that's what I saw with the neurofeedback, that, okay, this is the beginning of a true technology of healing enlightenment that can be advanced and given out to the masses. So what neurofeedback is, you have one or two sensors on your head. That's analysed by the software, and that real-time brainwave information is fed back to you in some way. And it can be in any way. In the old days, it was just graphs and things, and then it was simple little games and things like that. Now you can watch a video or DVD in the software, and the real-time brainwaves are just making the screen expand and contract. Now, the thing is, what neurofeedback is, it's like holding up a mirror in front of the brain, a technological mirror, and allowing the brain to actually watch itself in real time, and that gives it an edge. It seems to give it an edge, an extra capacity to start to look into itself and make tiny little fine-tuned changes to its own functioning. Now, the marvellous thing is, it does that subcortically. So you can just be sitting there and you're just watching the content. Your conscious mind is happily engaged in the content of what you're watching. And the whole process is just going on subcortically. So there's no learning curve. There's no skill to learn at that level. Now, that's absolutely marvellous, because it means that you can train kids that, say, have massive issues with attention and focus, so they just can't focus in any way and attend, or they might be hyperactive, so they're up and around and they're jumping about the place. Hook them up, let them go, and it just works its way. So their brain starts making changes, and they can suddenly start to focus much better. They're much calmer, they're more grounded, more relaxed. Then you could take a child like that later, if you wanted to, and then you could introduce some sort of meditation technique to them, or yoga practice or something. And so the neurofeedback has bumped them up very quickly to a level where then you can start to use some other practices, and you're going to really get benefit out of it. And what's great about the neurofeedback is that you can do some type of brain scan first, so you can look at what the brain function is, correlate that to what a person's experiencing, symptoms or this, that and the other, and you can match what's going on, and then you can target various parts of the brain very specifically in very specific ways.
You just mentioned checking in on what a person is experiencing, and you referenced a couple of minutes ago, you used the example of working with a child. Are there conditions that this neurofeedback therapy are specifically designed to treat?
Well, the therapy has evolved, and it's just expanding all the time, because it's working directly with the brain. And because that mirror analogy, by giving the brain information about itself in real time, it allows the brain to start to break out of rigid patterns that it's caught in, that it's holding on to, and it doesn't seem to be able to get out of very easily itself. Even a lot of time using other techniques, meditation, mindfulness, deep relaxation, any type of cognitive behavior sort of techniques, it's stuck, or it's extremely difficult. So it started off with epilepsy, then it went to ADHD and ADD, and then migraines and headaches and depression, anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, all sorts of behavioural disorders, and then learning disorders, all types of learning disorders, sensory processing issues, and autism spectrum disorders. So anything that has an underlying issue where brain function is part of that issue, neurofeedback can make a dramatic difference.
You've already alluded to its use in meditation a couple of times, and it was another application that I wanted to inquire about, specifically as it talks about on the website, something called alpha theta meditation and brainwave meditation. What are the applications of the neurofeedback intended to achieve with these forms of meditation?
Okay, it's really exciting, Robert, because again, it works on a whole bunch of levels. So one level, say, another area that neurofeedback is just doing incredibly good work. I mentioned post-traumatic stress disorder, but the whole trauma issue with people. What I've seen, I've been working with people for 28 years now, and in the last 5 years, I'm absolutely convinced that the population of people, because I've seen people that are even coaches and healers and therapists themselves, and they're 50, and they're still struggling with things, still struggling with certain things that they just can't sort out, and others that are struggling all the way down the line with all sorts of things. They're all people that have had childhood trauma. It has the deepest impact on you. So, for instance, you can have someone with that type of trauma. First of all, you do all the tuning work. And back to a yoga analogy, I realized that that's all the stuff you do with eye gazing. So you do eye gazing, you do breathing, then you close your eyes to do yoga nidra, and later on more advanced meditations. And what that is about, it's about tuning the brain first in an eyes open state to prepare you for the eyes closed state, which is a very different ball game. And that's very, very important. And so you tune someone up and you get rid of all the horrendous emotional and physiological arousal issues of tense fear or rage or anger, or the other way where they're under aroused, and so they're all over the place. And when they close their eyes, they might be able to crash into some sort of an altered state, but when they come out of it, they're depressive or dark or down. They have negative, dark experiences. You clean all that up first. Then you do alpha theta training for deep integration of the personality and for unconscious release of repressed emotions. And that then has the end healing effect. So that's one class of people. Another class is people that I mentioned. You can imagine a performance curve, and this side is under arousal, this side's over arousal. So people are over aroused, people are really hyped up, they've got a fast mind, and they might absolutely believe in meditation, they love the idea of it, and they try and try and try, but they can never really meditate very well. They just can't shut the mind down. Or they've got emotional things going on too. If they're hyper aroused, what happens is when you close your eyes and you start to relax, they hit a point where they start to relax, and it brings up all this agitation or anxiety. So it's like a firewall that stops them. Or people on the other side, like I mentioned, who are under aroused, they can close their eyes and go into states easy enough, but it gets all muddled and it gets sort of dark, and they come out of it and they feel out of it and spaced out and ungrounded, or a bit strangely negative and a bit depressive. So those people, when you do alpha theta training, you're giving them audio feedback when their brain is producing synchronous, and this is the key, synchronous alpha and theta waves. Now what that does is two massively important things. Once again, eyes closed, and you're listening to those tones, you're getting that feedback. Your brain is telling you when it's producing the synchronous alpha. And in this one, you do get consciously involved with it. At first you don't, you just sort of like listen, feel your body, but you start to more get consciously involved. So it has a dramatic effect of helping those people that may have struggled and struggled and struggled for years trying to do meditation, and it'll just lift them up into a high quality meditation that they can see what's going on, you can map it, they feel it, and it'll take them up there. Also, again, the beauty of it is we can train different structures during the alpha theta training, and there's a couple of different structures and ways of doing it, which has a big impact. And some people perform better, you know, training one part and others another part. So that's massively important. And then, of course, what you get is, well, the peak performance side for people, getting them into those high quality meditative states. But then also you get people that, yes, they've been meditating for a long time and they're doing quite well, and they're very, very interested to have a look at what's going on and to see if they can, you know, this can give them an edge to bump up to the next level.
Now, does meditation through neurofeedback as a tool or technique, does it differ from other forms of meditation?
Well, yes, it would. In the early days in the 60s, when they did the research with it, one was suggesting that it's sort of maybe possibly a bit more like Zen meditation.
Okay.
Simply because with the Zen, the eyes slightly open, so you're getting some sensory input that you're connected to. So with this, because even though your eyes are closed, but you are connected to the auditory input. So it's possible it's something like that. Not so much like a mantra meditation, because the vibration of the mantra plays a key role. So it's not just a listening thing, it's the vibration as well. But it is very interesting because there's a lot of studies now to show that all different meditations are having different effects on the brain.
No doubt.
And that is why, and that and there is a group, there's a university group in America somewhere that are doing a study on this to try and help identify for people what is the best meditation technique for them.
And maybe neurofeedback is one of them.
Absolutely, because what we can do is with neurofeedback, if someone's doing the meditation and they're coming out of it and they're getting what we call, say, under arousal effects. So they're saying, oh, I'm a bit spaced out or vague. I mean, I feel really relaxed, but I'm a bit spaced out and vague, or I'm a little bit headachy. In other words, what we call under arousal effects, then we can change the filters of the range of the feedback they're getting to lift the alpha up slightly. And adjust that, and then bingo, you hit the sweet spot, so that they're getting the perfect meditation. Now, you know, 20 years ago, people used to think, I can remember when people would go along to some meditation weekend thing, and they would be absolutely spaced out of their minds for the next week or so. And the people promoting it were sort of like saying that, oh, that shows you how powerful it was, and this, that, and the other. Well, maybe for some, but for others, no. It was showing that their brain wasn't tuned up enough. It wasn't in the right shape to deal with going into those states. And so it was spacing them out, because you shouldn't be spaced out in any way or feeling out of it in some strange way after meditation. You should be sort of relaxed but switched on.
Now, when we began,
just things for the person as we go along.
Right. When we began today, Jonathan, you mentioned and we made reference to the beautiful country of Australia you're in. Now, being based in Australia, can you work with people remotely?
Yes. This is the wonderful thing of Skype and remote control technology. So simple remote control technology, so I can just jump onto somebody's computer anywhere in the world and have a look at things, show them the software, teach them how to use the software.
Right.
They can send me session files that I replay here. I just graph and have a look.
Okay.
And then we've got Skype where we can talk face to face, where I can show them how to put the sensors on and do things. So that's the marvelous thing with this technology. With Skype and remote, yes, I've got clients all around the world. I've had them in New Guinea. I've got one in Nigeria in the moment. Got several in the US. Had them in England, Germany, Singapore, everywhere.
Wonderful. Now, if people wanted to reach out to you, Jonathan, how would they do so? Is there an email address? What's your website address?
Yep. Website is www.yourbraintraining.com.
Okay.
There's a contact form there. My email address is jonathan@yourbraintraining.com.
Wonderful.
And there's phone numbers there as well.
Okay.
And Skype.
We're going to make sure that that information, your email and the website address, is scrolling in the credits at the end.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Jonathan, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. It was nice to be able to speak to you in beautiful Australia. I still remember it very well.
Look, and I've always wanted to go to Canada. Canadians and Aussies get on really well.
We do.
And it's a beautiful country in itself too. It's like here, it's just a colder country in the winter, that's all, but it's massive amounts of unbelievably beautiful nature.
As well here in Canada. Well, you now have a contact.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thanks again, Jonathan. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Robert. Bye.
Bye-bye.